Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Robin Marsh, the Secretary General of UPF, which has the status of consultation, the status with the United Nations as an NGO. Madam Margaret, who has been previous director here and now is the advisor. And new director, also I see and there. People from different continents, from different countries, and from different religions. And journalists, I can see a few here, ladies and gentlemen. It indeed is a great honor and a privilege to be here and sharing my humble views on this great occasion where we are paying our regards and homage to a great leader, Father Moon. I was here on 3rd September 2024 also, and I attended this function. After having listened to very, very enlightened speech by Dr. David and other speaker, national director here, and then seeing that video about his personal life, and in the speeches it was mentioned about his spiritual strength and his urge for the unification and interfaith harmony and so on. I don't think so that I can add anything in that vocabulary. But one thing which comes to my mind is his broad mission of universal peace. I, being a soldier, being a political worker, I am also author of a few books. As a citizen of Pakistan, I also feel that the main mission is universal peace. And we have to see from all angles that how peace can be achieved, which was the main concern of Father Moon. In that context, then, I would like to go back in history and share with you that in the prehistoric days, the fights and conflicts and wars used to be on three things. One was land. People wanted to live and use for cultivation of food. Second was food, and third was water. But with the passage of time, in the ancient time and in the Middle Ages, then there were empires. They used to fight with each other for wealth, for power, and for territory, because they would need expansion and so on. Then came the time of 1500 AD to 1800 AD. And in these 3-4 centuries, it was colonial expansion that created rift and that created tension, and that was no good for the universal peace. And I would like to share here that out of 57 Muslim countries which are existing today, almost all, barring 1, 2, or 3, have been the colonies of the western part, Britain, France, Spain, Dutch, and so on. So that was the time. But in the 1900, that is the 20th century's beginning, until the end, it saw First World War, it saw Second World War, and it saw Cold War, which created polarization and which created a lot of differences, killing, and so on. And now in the 21st century, mainly people are going for mineral reserves, for oil and gas, for energy, for the waterways, and another menace is the terrorism, and then civil wars on sectarian issues and religious points and so on. So therefore, these all things are there. And throughout history, there have been great people who've been fighting for peace, universal peace. And in them, you can name few, for example, Nelson Mandela. He has been doing his best. Martin Luther King Jr. had his mother, Teresa, and so many more. And in them stood out Father Moon. He had the mission, and you have seen his lifestyle and his conviction, his meditation, and his open mind to understand as to what was who created this universe, and what are the demands on the creatures. So in that, as we were listening, that when he was in prison in the United States of America, there he studied two books. One was Bible and the second was Quran. And that speaks volumes about his open mind to understand as to who was the creator of the universe and how we should live, and what is the message that the different religions have been giving to us. Father Moon, as you know, was born in 1920. And it was a coincidence that after the First World War, 1920 was the year when first international peace agreement was signed by the League of Nations. He was born there, and this League of Nations Universal Peace and Conflict Resolution, and this all was then decided. But then when he was 19 years old, First World War started in 1939, 40, then he was 20, 21, 23, and he saw with his own eyes the nuclear bombs being used in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the horrors of Second World War, in which about 70 to 80 million people laid their lives. So he was moved. And then in 1954, when he was just 34 years old, then he realized that there has to be a unification movement that he started. And in that process, then he went, as was mentioned, to Soviet Union, met President Gorbachev, because to understand different cultures, because Father Moon did not only believe in religious harmony, he said social, psychosocial, cultural integration was important. He also went to North Korea and came to Sun. He was their president in 1991. He met him. I had the chance to meet that leader in 1994 when I went there as a military secretary with Prime Minister. And it was a bilateral visit, and I met him. Nelson Mandela, I had the chance to meet him on his oath-taking ceremony in 1994. I was attending that ceremony and saw his simple demeanor and his living, and I went to his office. It was very simple, and his message was very clear. So then Father Moon also sent his people to different countries, over 100 countries, as was mentioned, 158 countries. And he collected together all the people from different countries and talked of peace after 9/11 and so on. So he did his best. And his broad mission was international peace. It was peaceful coexistence. His mission was interfaith harmony. He had love for the creation of the creator. And therefore, he went to different countries and he met different people. But then we realized that why Father Moon, the message could not be brought forward. Because even today in the world, you see that we are at war. We have conflicts. We are not concentrating on the uplift of people in health, education, and so on. And then he founded in 2005 this Universal Peace Federation, because he wanted this a forum from where we could talk. And hats off to Robert March and his team that they do a tremendous job in this context, creating such seminars in which people come and express their opinion. But more important is that whatever was the message of Father Moon, we have to see its practical implementation. And to see that, we have to see what are the reasons, why are we here? And in that context, when I see the vision of Father Moon, it ironically is absolutely the same, which are the objectives of United Nations. What are those objectives? They are, for example, conflict resolution, that is international peace, that is human rights, that is, for example, working or taking care of the refugees, health, education, climate change, and so on. And the horrors that you see even now, what happened in Nepal, is really, one shudders to see that this can happen because of the climate change and aspect. So these all were there. So why has not United Nations then been able to be effective to ensure world peace? The fault is not with United Nations, because United Nations has 193 members. They have a fine objective. They have a charter, and people they have signed that, and that gives you, for example, in their charter, chapter 6 says that to anybody who threatens international peace, they should be taken to task. And in chapter 7, then it gives the different steps. First step is that ensure their diplomatic isolation if they don't listen to UN Charter and resolutions. Second is then there are economic sanctions. Do that. But if that also fails, then the United Nations has the authority to use a kinetic force to ensure that the country is taken to task which is violating the international law. But unfortunately, that is not happening. Why? Not because the United Nations, but because of the members who don't want to listen to United Nations, and then they invade other countries at their will, and they have no regard for even International Court of Justice. So therefore, if this is the crux, that means that we need to really make sure that the countries abide by the international law. And if only then you can transform the vision of such great leaders as Father Moon into reality and make this world a peaceful world for every small or big country to live. But and in addition to that, the other reason is why United Nations. One reason is this, that the people are not cooperating. Second is the structural flaws in the United Nations. Unfortunately, I have to say this because the manifesto was made, the charter was made by the victors, and they kept the provision for the veto. And those vetoes were used many times for Palestine, for Kashmir, for many other countries, international. Second is the Security Council composition, which is not fully representative of the different continents. For example, South America, African continent, 1.5 billion Muslims are there. So if we are really interested to bring global peace and put people together, we will have to make United Nations, we will have to reform it and make it more democratic, where majority decisions should be taken, and in that, only then. And that is what I wanted to say, that with kinetic force and with wars and all that, you cannot solve international problems. We have seen in the First World War, for example, about 20 million people died. And in the Second World War, I said about 70 to 80 million people died, and only United States of America had the nuclear bomb, and that was used. Now, more than 10 countries have nuclear bombs. And if we head towards the Third World War, it will be catastrophic. And that is why we say that we should avoid, we should make sure that we don't go towards that end. And the only remedy for that is, only solution is that we should all obey the international law and remain within our limits. Second World War had a lot of horrors and so on. And now there are about 10, 11 countries which are declared nuclear powers, but 10, 11 countries are just a screwdriver away from becoming and if there is a Third World War, then you can imagine that what can happen to us. So that way, to conclude, I would I have written a few points, take 1 minute or two. I would like to say that we need to believe in geopolitical realism, global power equilibrium, and pragmatic diplomacy, and refrain from global interventions, as was highlighted in former US President Nixon's doctrine of 1969. He exactly highlighted this, that this we have to do, that the geopolitical realities to be realized. Small countries or big countries have the right to exist according to the UN Charter. Number two, international law and not the superpowers' military might can provide security guarantees to smaller states. We have seen recently that you cannot give your security responsibilities, you can't outsource your security responsibilities to outside countries, you have to make. And that best defense is not your only national strength, but the international law which protects you. Third is kinetic power also has limitations, as was proved by NATO's embarrassment in Afghanistan. You have seen with that prolonged fight, ultimately nothing has been. Similarly in Vietnam and so on. And US unsuccessful regime change operation in Iran. Again, we can sit together and through the dialogue, which Father Moon always said, we can come into a international harmony. It is important to note that nations can bear economic pains to protect their autonomy. Because you can see, for example, Iran is under sanctions for the last 47 years. That doesn't help. You have to sit together, sign agreements, listen to others, have tolerance, and so on. We salute Father Moon's vision and selfless efforts for achieving international peace, but feel that the best way to pay homage to late Father Moon was to practically implement his vision, for which he founded UPF in 2005. Father Moon's vision was, very briefly, obey international law, respect differences, show tolerance, promote dialogue, reduce poverty, promote education, protect human rights, and encourage disarmament. Now, even today, we have certain countries have thousands of atom bombs, and others are told that no, you can't have it. I think this law has to be applicable to the entire world and ensure that this disarmament is effective and the countries have the authority. Then, above all, also the precise objectives, as I said, but I have now read the vision of Father Moon. These are the objectives of United Nations also, and I have dilated on them. There are structural flaws in this great institution in the form of veto power and not fully represented UN Security Council. These flaws need to be removed. Best way to pay homage to the great leaders, like I said earlier, Sun Myung Moon, is to make endeavors to translate his dream regarding world peace into reality. So with this, I end, and I am so grateful, sir, as always, that you've been so kind. We have to make sure that at the level of the United Nations, we should bridge this gap. And we need great leaders like Father Moon to be present and to create that harmony. And I salute your dedication and your team's effort for this purpose that you are doing. I can assure you that we in Pakistan, for example, you have seen that in the this conflict in Middle East, Pakistan is in the forefront in diplomatic endeavors to bring these two countries together, which never sat on one table. For example, Iran and the United States of America, since the Iranian Revolution of 1979. But Pakistan made it possible, not only that they should have dialogue, but sit together and talk to each other, and even know that endeavor. I think this is the positive thing that we need to do in all countries, and I hope that we will continue doing this. But salute to Father Moon really, after seeing the video and after listening to very enlightening presentations here, one is really overwhelmed, and we pray that we have more Father in this world to ensure that there is no mutual destruction. In fact, there is a mutual confidence. And with that, sir, I thank you.